For our second video of NRL Fantasy for 2024 in our preseason is going to be touched around the overpriced players based on their average from last year only here, and then also the underpriced players based on their average. So a lot of the time the underpriced guys are because they played a very limited amount of games and therefore they retain a discount in their price there heading into 2024. We're also going to go through the new players that have been added, guys that haven't played for a bunch of years and are back, or they're coming over from England and are brand new to the NRL and obviously NRL Fantasy as well. So we'll discuss all them. A bunch of these guys won't have any real meaning, any real value. I just wanted to show, really outside of these guys, everyone else is exactly priced to their average. So these guys are either up or down based off certain types of roles that they had last year and the roles that NRL Fantasy and FanHub think that they're going to have in this season coming up. So we'll kick it off with the overpriced players here in our hooking position, and that is Tom Starling. So he's actually up about 5.4 points based on where he averaged last year, which is fairly strange considering they're very likely to have a couple of hookers in their team at all times, and they're a squad that you really don't want to be touching any of their hookers in their team there with the Raiders. That's for sure. We know what it's been like in previous years. It was years ago when Starling was relevant, but he's no longer relevant anymore. We also see Brendan Hands. He gets given an extra, unfortunately, an extra 3. So he's 3 points overpriced as well. Given the role that he had in that Eels side, he did really, really good. And then, for some reason, they've got him priced up 3 points from where he averaged in the end, considering that he's got a role there with Joey Lussick. It seems fairly silly on that front. In our mids there, unfortunately with Curran, he's actually been overpriced as well. So he's one of those guys that did end up with a fairly low average just based on the role that he was given at the Warriors. And Curran, a dual position guy, heading into this year, just over 500k is going to be very, very interesting and pretty much an auto pick, I'd imagine, for most teams if he's given either an edge role or the middle role at the Bulldogs in 2024. So Josh Curran, we will be getting very familiar with him. They actually priced him 2.7 points above where he scored last year. Josh Aloiai ended up getting an extra 3 as well, so surprising on that front, obviously injury related with him. And then Joe O as well, Joe Fengawi, over to the Eels there after getting very, very low minutes for the Tigers. Surprisingly, after his dominant season in 2022, he came to the Eels and very unluckily didn't get a lot of minutes and to do with obviously some injuries and then their squad as well and their makeup of their forwards. So Joe O unfortunately gets a little bit of an increase there. Unsure if he's going to get any type of role anyway for the Eels, but at this point he's a little bit overpriced. Sean Lane, they've priced him up 5 as well. So considering he had a very, very lackluster season, couple of injuries really derailed him, and he was averaging really, really high in 2022. So Sean Lane comes in with the 5 extra, but it still looks like he'll have a decent amount of value. Just frustrating there that unfortunately his average of last year, they haven't priced him at that, knowing that very, very likely he's going to be scoring a lot better than that average. You see that with all these guys that we have potential for some value, that NRL Fantasy is pretty good about it. There's not too many guys that you can just lock and load as a must-have unless it's a rookie that happens to get a starting hooker role, a starting halfback role, or a 5/8 role, something like that is kind of when everyone picks that one player. Otherwise, they seem to do a very, very good job of noticing those guys that are likely to get a pretty good role or a bounce back in their next season coming up. Angus Crichton, also 4 overpriced based on his lackluster role. He's very low minutes. He's off the bench play. A good chance that he can come back into calculations really as a much better option this year if he happens to get a starting side. But until that happens, I think Crichton is someone that we can leave out of our sides. Stephen Crichton, on the other hand, is one of those players that's been given a 1.5 point extra, and very much the same with Stagsy there at 2 points extra. So Crichton going to the Dogs and a fullback role. It's actually interesting that he doesn't seem to score too much better in the fullback role compared to what he does at centres. Big thing here is he's moving to a Dog side that isn't anywhere near as good as the Panthers, so I don't see much value in him anyway, but they have upped him 1.5 points for some reason. Bit different a couple of years ago when he was underpriced for no apparent reason either. Stagsy too. Yeah, see with him, I just think it's a bit silly. He's had really, really low stretches of games. He had really, really high stretches of games. So, yeah, no real help with Stagsy there. Ponga, 3.5, he goes up. So with him playing a lot of 6 at the beginning of the season, that is the big reason why he is priced up, the 3.5. So he averaged almost 60 at fullback, and he finished with a 51 average. So with Ponga there, he's definitely someone to look at, and that's getting him closer to what he averaged as a fullback. He does have a little bit of value if he sticks with that, but he was incredible. Him and Drinkwater, I'm not sure if they can both keep up to that. Well, definitely I don't think they can do better than what the two of them did, especially through the back end of last year. We saw how poorly Drinkwater started. I did begin my season with him. I won't be doing it again. Drinkwater is very, very expensive as well. Both Ponga and Drinkwater have been given a little bit of an extra on top of their price, unfortunately. Okay, we move to the underpriced players here based off their average from last year. So Joey Luxic's gone the other way around. So a 2.5 point discount there for him based on his average, just because of the role that we think that FanHub thinks he's going to receive for the Eels there. No one I don't think is of relevance. They're similar to Mamazella, so I just wanted to put everyone in here that had that sort of discount or had the extra points laid on them there, extra price I should say laid on them there. So Mamazella, when he does play good minutes, so if there happens to be an injury to Damien Cook, as we say each and every year, he's the guy to look at. Puru from the Raiders there, he's 10 points underpriced based on his average of about 30 last year. So if he happens to get a role, then we know that he can definitely score 10 points above that and be of value to our sides. Henry as well. In the mids, there's an interesting one. He had 3 extra points on his average, and they've priced him down that just for the lack of games. And Trey Mooney as well, 4 points underpriced in this one if he was to continue on his average from last year. So really the point of this video, guys, is to get you customized to a few of these guys that got a limited amount of games and were able to perform in that limited amount of games and have been given a discount on that price. So if they do come into calculations to any of those teams coming into the season here, that they can do a good job for sure. Both for more. So he actually didn't play last year, obviously, with his ACL injury. He's going to be coming back into this season ready to go, I believe. So based on his average from 2022, he's actually been given a 4 point. He's now 4 points undervalued based off that. Can he get back to that straight away? Is going to be a good question, and we will find out very shortly. And then my man Dylan Lucas, I'm super excited by this man. Based on his average last year, he's 7 points undervalued. And I do think that if he gets the spot and he gets it for 80 minutes, then he could be very, very undervalued and almost keeper level territory, in my opinion, if he gets that spot. There's a chance that there's a new fella coming over from England that could take that spot when he comes back from injury. At this point, we don't exactly know when that's going to be. But for Dylan Lucas, I'm super excited for him, and he's 7 points undervalued. Nico Hines in the halves. So with him there, he's actually been given a 1 point advantage. Him and Cleary are priced the same, even though Cleary did average just over a point less than Hines there. But Cleary did cop a really low score with his hamstring injury that he had there. For the centers, Stilabis Hoita, 12.5 points undervalued. You got Dean Mariner, 8.5. So didn't really hurt them too much, their price. They're both at $4.50 there. But one in Hotta actually scored a lot better. So he has that bigger discount based on his price there. Looks like these guys are going to be in line to get either a wing or a center spot and are going to come into big calculations for all of our sides come round 1. They're playing in Vegas, so that'll be an interesting one, which one of those guys gets picked. And actually an interesting one is people are talking about, will there be 2 different team lists? Will there be a team list for just the teams going to Vegas? And then will the team list for the rest of the games come out after that Sunday on that Tuesday, like normal? So that's going to be really, really interesting to make those decisions for the Vegas games beforehand, and then having to make decisions a little bit later, kind of guessing as to what is happening with those team lists following that first 2 games. So that's going to be really, really interesting, and those 2 guys are right in the thick of that. Jordan McLean is the next guy. He's 11 points undervalued based on his limited games there. He got a 39 average, I believe, so that helped him out to that, and he's priced according to a nice discount. In the wing fullbacks, you got Tristan Saylor, performed 5 points better than what he's priced at the moment, and we know that he, if there's an opportunity for him at fullback and Reece Walsh is gone, then that's where that could help. Jenkins, obviously, he's the one that comes over to the Knights, and he's 9 points undervalued there based on his scores. But remember, these guys like McLean and Jenkins, they are Panthers boys, and yeah, it's not always you can score super well changing teams. The Knights, on the other hand, are a very, very good attacking outfit, and he's a good chance to replace Dom Young on that right-hand side, who scored lots of tries, but I believe is a much better athlete. And a lot of the times he was, streaking down the sideline. I think that, there's not too many people in the game that could score those tries that Dom Young, that Edric Lee, that these types of that Jason Saabs, these types of wingers can do, just with that sheer speed that they have there. Tyrone Munro is an interesting one. So him at 8 points undervalued based on his average last year. He's a very, very cool one to think about. If he manages to get that spot in round one, I think he'll feature in a lot of teams, given he's not too expensive and he has plenty of upside. So look at Munro as a potential option there with close to 10 points of value, I would say, if he gets that winger spot, and the Bunnies can start fairly well here. Jarrell Skelton, 2 points undervalued, just based on his average for that one. So not too much to say here. I don't think he keeps that spot to start. This name I'm unsure how to pronounce as of yet. Liatau? Taua? We'll try with that. Someone tell me in the comments. That would be delightful. Thank you. Or send me a voice memo. 17 points undervalued. How good is that? The best one of the lot. Okay, let's just finish off with the new players added. This just goes from the top in Smithies and Pierce Paul in the mids and the edges there. So both at 520k, fairly expensive in my opinion based on their output. So Smithies is a very interesting one. He does tackle hard. There's plenty of good information on him there. But I was reading along with the stats that Mark put out at NRL Fantasy Amateurs there. Go check them out, guys. Awesome podcasts and articles to listen to and read. What he was popping out there was just that he likened him to a not as good Victor Radley, which we know what Victor's like in fantasy terms. It's not the best, let's say. Can have good games, can have pretty poor games as well, and discipline is a bit of an issue, and that could be where Smithies falls down there, but fairly expensive to even start with if he happens to get massive minutes, and he could be like a 40 plus type of player. But at this stage, we're unsure how that's going to go. And there's a little bit of chatter around Zach Hosking, ended up, potentially getting an early release from the Panthers to go to the Raiders as well. And they are missing Horsburgh for the start of the season, so there's plenty going on in that squad. Pierce Paul, we don't know too much about at this point. Across the preseason, we'll get into him a little bit more and understanding where he's at and the skills he possesses and sort of where he's at in his injury rehab. If you guys end up joining my private group, we'll have all the information from NRL Physio as it comes out as well. So that's going to be really important. Aiden Caesar there at 477, so fairly cheap there, but he's one of those guys that really, for majority of his NRL career, he wasn't too fantasy relevant. At the beginning, he was when he was fairly cheap. He came in and did an awesome job, which was great, but other than that, he hasn't performed super well. You've got Will Price there at 400k. So it's a bit of an awkward one, in my opinion, with him. So we'll find out a little bit more as we go. But yeah, not a clear-cut cash cow. Does he even have a role? I don't think so at this point. Bronson Xerri is a very, very interesting player. Someone that I personally won't be starting with. I believe at 450k, if he was closer to the 300s, we could definitely look at it. Is his spot guaranteed? That's also something we're not exactly sure of either. So yeah, we'll talk about him a little bit more, obviously, as we get through the preseason. Thanks again for being here, guys. Really appreciate it. RTS is 619k. Is a very, very interesting play. So expensive. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that him in the centers is going to be that expensive. He'll get the dual position, but not really relevant in my opinion. Taylor May at 600k, very similar to what he is priced at when he was dominating before he did his ACL. So May, I don't see much value as a winger. He'll be really solid, but will he dominate? We need him to drop down, I think, in my opinion. And then Xavier Savage is a new player back. He didn't play last year, which was annoying for a lot of people that were looking to get him in. Played a lot of wing for the Raiders in their New South Wales Cup side. So really, I think if he's going to come in to this team, it will be on the wing, and a 350k, it is way too expensive. If we do see him in that fullback slot, then we will think about it for sure. But it looks like Chevy Stewart there is going to be getting that fullback slot. There's a high chance of that, or someone like Ko Weeks. So yeah, those are all the new players that we need to talk about. Very funny. It actually said that Connolly Lemuelu had the 0 average as well, like he was a new player, strangely. But that's all we've got on all of those players at the moment, guys. I said we will be very shortly getting into all of our team previews, given that we're very close to getting sort of top 30s for all of their squads, that we can get into minutes and the like there. But in the meantime, enjoy these. Get into some of the videos that I popped out at the end of the last season reviewing our teams, and we'll catch you in the next few, guys. Enjoy these. Thank you.